Hey there, Green here with another Terran mechanics building video. This is a video that's going to instill upon you habits and behaviors, methods, tricks, whatever you want to call them, that will make you able to macro effectively without actually knowing exactly what to do at all times. As a new player, you don't know exactly the precise time to do everything at all times. That's natural. You have to play the game more, become more experienced. But I can supplement that experience with just a method of putting down structures, little like kind of like numbers that coincide with other things and other actions that you're going to do. Very simple, and it's 3 rules. The 3 different rules will be about how much you can afford to produce off of one base, how many supply depots you must build at what times and when, and how many upgrades you can afford based on what you're currently doing. So those are the 3 things we're going to be going over. And so the first thing we're going to jump into is how many structures you can produce per base. The structures that you can produce per base while macroing, which means you can take another base and produce from these structures at the very same time, are 3. That means I can build 3 barracks, I can build 1 barracks, a factory, and a starport and produce from them. This is important. Only if you're producing from them. If I build a factory just to get a starport, but I'm not actually using the factory, or I'm not actually using the starport, then I can add an additional barracks. Does that make sense? If I have 2 barracks, a factory, and a starport, but I'm only making units from the starport and the 2 barracks, that's 3. So I can comfortably take a 3rd base because my money will stack up enough to where I can actually put down that 3rd base. So if I'm on 2 bases, then I can produce from 6. It's just simple math. If you're on 3 bases, you can produce from 9. This is important. I have a lot of my friends, when they're playing the game, they're like, okay, I get to 3 bases. What do I do now? I mean, how many barracks should I put down? Their money stacks up. They lose an army, but they can't properly spend their money because they don't have the proper infrastructure. So by just simply using this rule of 3, you will always have adequate infrastructure to produce units for the amount of bases you are on without having any issues producing at all, ever. The second thing that you need to do is build supply depots. Obviously, you can't build more units without supply depots, but when do you know to build the supply depots? Sometimes people say, oh, I get supply block all the time, forget to build a supply depot. You have to get in the habit of knowing when to put supply depots, but you're new, so how do you know when? It's very simple. If you are producing from 3 structures, again, 1 factory production, 1 starport, 1 barracks, then at all times you must also produce 1 supply depot. Don't queue up supply depots. When one is done, build another. When that one's done, build another. If you are constantly producing 1 supply depot, and you are constantly building units from 3 different structures, then you will not get supply blocked, and it will just be a perfect synergy of supply cap being increased and more units being built. Very simple. So now let's imagine we're on 3 bases, and we have, let's say, 2 starports, a factory, and 6 barracks that are producing. Well, if you're not actually at the 200 supply cap, then you should probably be producing 3 supply depots at once. That's assuming you're producing from all of them. If you're on 2 bases, and you have, say, a standard 4 racks, factory, and a starport that you've built, then you can produce 2 supply depots at a time, and you will not get supply cap, and you will fluently produce units at the very same time. Now, the final thing that my friends ask me is they say, when do I build upgrades? They say, how do I know when to put down my engineering bay? How do I know when I can afford to put down an engineering bay? And the answer is very simple. For every 2 gas that you have, you can do a tech upgrade alongside your units. So if I'm on 2 gas right now, okay, then if I wanted to, I can throw down 1 engineering bay. But look at my gas, it's very low. Down here I don't have 2 gas. So I can't afford more engineering bays. When I take these 2 gas, then I can also comfortably produce from those engineering bays. Now this works for all matchups. All matchups. Because in a Terran versus Terran, you might not be making as many Marauders, but you probably are making more tanks. Versus a Protoss, you're probably not using the factory, but you're probably using the gas here. So you'll find that it evens out pretty well. Now, sometimes there are builds that allow you to, or require you to maybe double upgrade at the very same time. But these are well timed out builds. This is more of a general rule of macro. If you follow this, you will always be at a good state in the game. You'll always be able to compete. Your upgrades will not fall behind. Your macro will not slip. Your army will not be weak. This is a great middle ground. I'm trying to learn StarCraft 2 habit to build. And a lot of this stuff transcends low leagues. The building of supply depots, you'll never get supply blocked. It'll be a great habit for you to have. So let's take note here. We're on 2 bases, right? 1, 2. We have a sizable amount of drone or SCVs on the second base. And we have 2 gas. 1, 2, none here. So then, naturally, I'm producing 1 upgrade. And naturally, I'm constructing my 6 producing structures, which is starport, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 barracks. And I'm going to start constantly producing 2 supply depots once these are producing at all times. And if we put it on fast forward a little bit, you'll note everything is producing at all times. Produce, 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 produce. Everything at all times. Look at the money. It's not even going above 300. This is important. Now, once we've added on our second gas, well, guess what? Time to add another engineering bay. Time to start getting level 2 upgrades. Look, 2 things at once. 2 things at once. Constantly producing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Constantly producing. Now let's pause it for a second here. Look at this money. Completely low. We're not doing anything crazy. We're not, oh, well, this is a build order. It's timed out. There's no timing. It is just simply you understanding that you can produce this with this and that with that, and you're just building stuff. It becomes very simple. So this is my basic macro guide. If you have any questions, post them down in the comments. I appreciate it. Thanks.